So before we talk about the behavioral techniques that we can use to help put kids to sleep, it's important we consider three things. Number one is that we set a bedtime routine. The bedtime routine doesn't have to be long. It can be 15 minutes. It should involve the bedroom where it's nice and dark, and it obviously should be a mellow, predictable process. Number two is that you need to be consistent. You need to have a plan that you're sharing with your partner and with your baby. And number three, of course, is the hard part. This is the part where you have to pacify your child less. And this kind of goes against every grain of a parent and the child, and it can be really tricky. So the first method we're going to discuss is what we call the sort of less cry, probably not no cry method, but less cry method. And what happens with this method is you take your child's bedtime and you add an hour or two. And so you make it quite late at night. And so the theory is that they're very tired, and that if you set a predictable routine and you put them to bed, and again you start to withdraw your own pacifying of your child, is that they'll go to sleep very quickly because they're tired. And then the idea is that you actually move that up each night by 10 or 15 minutes. And usually within a week, most people who are going to experience success with this method do. People who don't do well, sometimes kids get overtired and they get overstimulated. There's less literature around this approach. But the good thing about it is for parents that don't want their child to really, really cry and to kind of go through that, this can be a nice sort of middle ground. The second two options are what we call versions of Ferberizing, and anybody who's sort of stood around a sandlot knows what Ferberizing is. And it was made famous by a pediatrician called Richard Ferber, and he came up with this process of what we call systematic ignoring. And Dr. Ferber just put out a new book in 2006, so if you want to learn more about it, you can certainly read it. But I break it down into sort of two approaches, one sort of less hardcore and one more hardcore. The less hardcore approach is you put your baby down, and they've done their pre-routine, et cetera, and what you do is you actually still stay in the room. The lights are out, you might sit in a chair, you might lie down on a bed and pretend to be asleep, but you don't make contact with your baby. You're there in case something goes wrong, they vomit or whatever, but you're there, but you slowly disengage yourself and allow your child, again, to develop their own self-soothing abilities. And then as the week progresses on, you slowly move out of the room. Most people, this works within 5 to 7 days, sometimes sooner, and some people sort of string it out to 2 weeks. The final method is more hardcore, and what's involved with that is that you put your child down again after the pre-routine, and you place them down, and then you return after a minute, after 3 minutes. What this is not is you don't sort of lock the door and turn up the TV. What you do is what we call progressive waiting. So you only visit your child after a minute, after 3 minutes, after 5 minutes, after 7 minutes. This is a very effective way for babies to learn how to put themselves to sleep.